I want to tell you the story of a man named Dan. Dan Miller is his name, and he's had a real impact on my life. And I want to tell you specifically the part of his story that has most impacted how I will forever live my life. So I came across Dan, I believe, about 5 or 6 years ago. I think he was about 71 at the time. And Dan was a man of pretty significant influence. He had a podcast called 48 Days to the Work You Love. And that's how I first became introduced to him. And I listened to a lot of his content, and I really appreciated the man that he was. He had also written a book, and he had a community of people that he served in the ventures of their life. And so he was a man of pretty significant impact. And I became part of his community. And when I became part of his community, I found that there were a lot of people looking to kind of build stuff the way Dan had, and to build a program, and to build an entrepreneurial pursuit. And although I appreciated that, and in a sense I was trying to do the same thing, I didn't see it working. I didn't see where many people were succeeding at this venture. Being a longtime school teacher, I didn't think much of that. It was just an observation I had. But then there was part of Dan's story that I heard that was like a light bulb going off for me. Dan shared about when, I think it was like 25 years before, I think he said he was 52 years old, and he said from his business ventures in life, he had tried so many things, and all he had was a pile of debt. Things had not worked out in his business ventures. He had been a faithful man to his family, and personally he was a strong man, but in terms of what he was doing in business, there was not success there at the time. And he talked about how he and some men at that time in his life decided to meet in the basement of their little church in Tennessee and have conversations like a mastermind, where they just looked across the table at each other and began to ask questions about what could we build with our life? What could we do? And these people, some of them became very significant in the work that they're doing. I could mention some of their names and you would know their names. But at the time, they were just regular dudes who were searching out how to build something with their life. And when he told that story, I was like, now that is the Dan that I want to be. I don't need to try to be what Dan Miller is right now. Build a big podcast and write a book and get a community of people to follow what I'm doing. No, when I heard that story, I was like, that's what I want to be. I want to be the Dan Miller of 25 years ago, and I want to sit across the table from people who have the guts to sit together and look across the table at each other and say, what could we do with our lives? What could we build? How could we support dreams and goals that we have with our lives? That is what most stuck out to me about his story. We see many people, when we look at someone's life, and maybe it's inspiring to us, the life they're living, we usually try to take this giant shortcut and just begin to figure out how to do what they're doing, when really what we need to do is be who they were being long before. And see, instead of trying to produce the same result that someone else has in their life, to go back to the seed of their result. And for me, in Dan's story, I don't know how much he would agree with this, but the fact that he told this story tells me it was significant what happened in that little church in Tennessee, where some people sat around a table and decided to take their lives seriously in the way they could impact one another, the way they could support each other's dreams, the way they could be a sounding board. That is what I forever want to be a part of with people. Now, I'll be honest with you, it's not easy to find those people. I think many people are afraid of what could happen between them and someone else. So it's easier to keep up a little wall between ourselves and people. That's not living. I am convinced of the potential of serious people meeting with serious people. Serious yet common people. Regular people working all different types of jobs, all different types of talents and gifts. I'm so convinced that when common people will meet with other common people and just have uncommon conversations, like what could we do? How could we make a difference with our lives? How can we support each other? Those kind of uncommon conversations among common people can cause miracles to become common. That is the most significant lesson that I learned from the life of Dan Miller. And because of that story, I will always be a man looking for a table to sit across the table from other men like Dan Miller. I'm thankful for his life. I'm thankful for his story. And I'm thankful that I get to be a branch. People like you get to be a branch that will live out his legacy. Dan's at a difficult time in life. Now he's 76, facing what people are calling a terminal problem in his body. But the truth is, what has happened through Dan's life with people will be unending. There'll be no end to his legacy. And this may be the most profound and powerful reality, is that when people take people seriously, things can happen that's so much bigger than us. Things happen through us that live way, way beyond us. And so the lesson from Dan Miller's life for me was I always want to be a person that will sit across the table from serious people and have serious conversations about what we can do with our life.